I'm Svetlana Kim, curator for the global lead on the Maven.net, and I am here with Kevin Lin, Chief Operating Officer of Twitch. Kevin, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Let's talk about innovation and creativity, about technology and creativity. I hear I'm not creative. I hear a lot, I'm not creative.
You did write a book, so that's kind of...
So you have interesting mind because you're an entrepreneur, you're very creative, and you're also a business person.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say I'm the most creative person. I think I'm not afraid of sharing crazy ideas. But yeah, no, I think what's really fascinating to me about what's going on in innovation, particularly in where we work here in Silicon Valley, is it increasingly becomes that intersection of art, creativity, and innovation. It's not just enterprise businesses, it's not just biotech, right, that are like very service and have a good purpose obviously out there. But companies like the one we started at Twitch is really that intersection of, okay, you need the technology, which is to deliver live video around the world in an interactive format, but it's the point of the platform, point of platforms like ours is really about creating a palette for people to invent their own things, invent their own shows in new formats. So while we encourage a lot of that creation, not a lot of companies do that, right? And there are not many companies that have their customer is actually almost one step removed. Like our viewers and one of our end customers, but without the creators, without the content creators, there's nothing for people to watch. And that's what we really focus a lot of our efforts is on that creator audience that is looking for not only an audience to reach, but a platform that they can use as a blank canvas to do what they're passionate about.
What is your role at Twitch?
Sure. So I'm a co-founder, chief operating officer. Originally built the content team, so that team is main mandate is to find interesting content creators, help develop them, and help them develop careers on Twitch. So we have about 2 million people that stream every single month. They create content in a live video format, and only about 20,000 of those are actually partnered, and that means they've met certain quantitative and qualitative criteria, and that allows them to open up revenue options on the site. So they can make money from advertising, they can make money direct from consumers through subscriptions, they can make money through what we call cheering, which is a virtual good, and many other options to actually earn income as a creator. So I built that team, business development team, corporate development, strategy. These days I focus more on corporate development, business development, but also future strategies for Twitch. We started as a gaming-focused live video social platform, so it's all around other people watching people play games, which a lot of people thought was weird. Understandably, we pitched probably 80 VCs, both our Series B and Series C, and 79 of them each time said, we don't get it. We don't know why people would want to watch other people play games. Turns out that we were habituated as a culture, that Nintendo generation that grew up sitting, in living rooms or on college campuses, waiting for their turn for a 2-player and eventually a 4-player console, and we're used to that behavior. And at the end of the day, video entertainment really is about what you derive from it, right? And I have my qualms with what's going on television these days with the sort of glut of reality TV, so to speak. I think we're even more real than that, right? People turn on a camera, they focus the video largely on their gameplay, but they're talking to the audience. They're answering their questions, they're redoing things in the game based on feedback. They might be themselves and they talk about their lives and what they care about. They might talk about current events or politics. They might even take on an entire persona. Some of them stream through like a Muppet. One of them looks like a Muppet. One of them has like a handlebar mustache and plays this character that's actually nothing like they are in real life. But it leaves an open canvas for you to do that through. So that's a lot of what I focus on these days is what else? What are the other categories of content? We tried a couple of things with old television shows like Power Rangers. We did an anime marathon recently. We even showed Bob Ross, The Joy of Painting, serially from the first episode to last episode over the course of a week. And the audience loved it. They actually interacted with the content in chat, which is adjacent to the video, as if it was a live show, as if Bob Ross was there talking to you, teaching you how to paint. And they were very conversational about it. They ended up popping up with memes that would pervade the rest of the internet. So you'll see memes from shows that happen on Twitch that end up on Twitter or Facebook or Reddit. So there's this crazy viral effect that happens, but it's a show that's 30 years old. And yet, this young generation, this millennial audience is tuning in and enjoying it in different ways.
You have over 50 million visitors on your website.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of people.
How did you build that?
So we, I think we hit latent demand. It's a lot of work, right? I think the single most important thing that we did was we talked to our customers, we talked to our consumers, and the company was around for 2 years before that as a site called Justin TV, which was a general live streaming platform, and we never really talked to the creators. We never really sat down with the folks that were streaming on Justin TV and said, hey, like, what is it that you want from this platform? What do you expect to do? Is it about fame? Is it about love? Is it about making money? What is it that you need? And we started reaching out to gamers that were creating content on other platforms and said, hey, why don't you use our platform? And we got a lot of great feedback. And so we built a lot of tools that they needed. And these are some very specific tech tools like transcoding, so that you can push one high definition stream to us and we transcode it down so people that didn't have strong internet could still watch. We built monetization tools, we built promotional tools, and we still do this to this day. So it was really that interplay of us coming up with ideas on how to innovate the platform, talking with our customers, our partners really, to help them understand what we were thinking. We made sure we asked a lot of questions so we understand what their needs actually were, that we weren't just coming up with crazy ideas that didn't make sense, and we continue to innovate through this fashion. So that was a big part of it. But it grew to what it is today. So we focus a lot on daily activity. We have about 11 million people that watch every single day. Over the course of a month, it's over 100 million. And then on a daily watch time basis, it's 106 minutes on average. So almost 2 hours, which, you look at your average consumer watches about 4.5 hours of TV. We're about almost half of that for an entire generation of people that actually don't watch television. They might not even have cable. They're consuming through Netflix or Amazon or Hulu. But we've become this entertainment choice for an entire generation of folks that really want to watch content based on their passion. And they're not watching quote unquote professionally produced, right? It's not edited, it's not millions of dollars in budget, or not even millions, not even tens of thousands. It's people are streaming and creating content from the safety of their own home, right? And some of them use more professional studios. Of course, there are big corporations that do stuff with us, but we wanted a platform that works for all of the above. Anybody can use it. It's free. We've extended it out of gaming into what we call creative, which is about basically streaming the process of art and creativity, right? The making process, whether you're an illustrator or a costume designer or a painter, you can express your passions through Twitch, and people can tune in and watch you and support you.
You mentioned the word innovation, and Twitch is very innovative. Can you talk about innovation, and especially, we know that artists, like Bruce Lee said, express yourself, self-realization, that's the hardest thing to do. But many people feel that they're not innovative enough. And also second question is, how do you get your best ideas? Is that in a process where you're making, or you work backwards? You envision the final project or product, and then you make steps to your first action.
Yeah, we definitely do. Our process for taking ideas and turning them into product or programs is very much working backwards. So I'll talk about the ideation process, the innovation process for us. It's kind of all over the place, honestly. I mean, when we decided to start Twitch out of Justin TV, that innovation point, that light bulb moment, actually came because we were obsessed with a game called StarCraft 2. So we were a small company back then. We had like an old converted like art gallery as an office in Soma, down an alley. Like literally we were sandwiched between two alleys. No one knew where we were. No one knew who we were. And this game StarCraft 2 came out. We got access to the beta. And we were playing pretty much every night until, midnight, the wee hours. We'd go home, come back to work. We were tired. And all we wanted to do was play this game. And so productivity was down. We were worried. We're like, okay, we got to stop playing. We had to be disciplined. Yes, we're a small team. We trust each other. We like working with each other. But all we wanted to do was play this game. But we realized we were all doing the same thing when we got home, which was we were watching videos on YouTube of pro players that were being commentated by folks that were making these videos, and they talk about the skill, they talk about the strategy within the game, they talk about any balance changes that the game developer, Blizzard, made to that game. And we realized, you know what? Maybe we should reach out to these guys that are making this content and just ask them, like, why don't you do it live, or why are you doing it live elsewhere, not on our platform? And that's when that spark came of, oh my goodness, we need to talk to customers. So a lot of this innovation really still comes from that. Obviously, we're a big company now, and a lot of the folks that work at Twitch use Twitch, or they play games, or they do both, or we have a lot of content creators actually that work here now. And because they're using the platform, we're using the platform to watch it, we play games, a lot of the ideation just comes internally where we'll say, hey, I use the site almost every day, what if we did this instead? And then we go and get feedback from creators, get feedback from viewers as well, and then work backwards from there and say, okay, this is an interesting idea. How do we actually get there, and what's the real benefit, right? And for a company at our age, we've been doing this for 9.5 years, or 10 years, sorry. A lot of it is focus. A lot of it is which of these. There's hundreds of ideas that pop up every week. Which of these ideas really move the needle for the company? Really, and for us, moving the company means moving the value for the people who are actually making the content on our platform. So what really is good for the creators is good for us. So we always distill it back down to, okay, what do they really need to be successful, right? We think about that in 3 forms: money, fame, and love. A lot of people do it for fun. That's great. That's the love piece, right? It's better than playing a game by yourself. It's better than painting alone, so to speak. Then it's fame. As the audience grows, they feel empowered. They feel like they can reach people. They feel like they can affect people's lives, hopefully in a positive way. And then, of course, if you want to do this as a career, you got to make money. So we try to build ever more monetization platforms so that our creators have choice. They don't like ads, they don't have to run ads. They can run subscriptions. They can turn nothing on if they don't want to. If it's not important for them to make money from this activity, that's perfectly fine. We're here for you too, as a platform. But a lot of the innovation comes from internal discussions. I find for myself on a personal basis, when I take breaks, actually, which I didn't learn to do until way too late. So all you entrepreneurs out there, find that work-life balance, please. It helps everything. It helps the people around you. It helps your company. We didn't find it really till too late, but I find whenever I try to take time off, I'm actually sending emails to people being like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we did this? Or what about this? What about that? And like, Kevin, just go chill. Go read a book or something, right? Stop working. But you never know. And conversationally, like having conversation, going to events, meeting with creators, meeting with game companies, meeting with other partners really helps a lot too. They really help spark those ideas.
Well, there's so much passion even listening to you. Do you feel like it's like you're working or you're just playing?
I'd say for a very long time it never really felt like work, honestly. It didn't. It really sincerely did not feel like work. It was great. I traveled a lot. I still travel a lot today. Go to conventions, and Emmett, who's our CEO, co-founder, was always like, dude, you got to stop going. And I'm like, well, I kind of actually like going because we build better relationships with our partners, we get to innovate, but they became my friends, right? So going to these things was the only time once a month or once a quarter that you actually get to see the people you really work with, right? Of course, the people we work with here are working very hard, we're all very close, and we all support each other in sort of this endeavor of let's marry our passions with our work. But so are the people that are creating content on our platform or otherwise working with us, and they've all become very close friends of mine. So it's nice to see them. But yeah, it doesn't feel like work often. I'd say as the company gets bigger, it becomes tougher, right? Budgeting takes longer. There's many ideas you have to think through and vet, make sure teams are working together better as the company gets larger. So there's those things that naturally happen, but I'd say, honestly, we're very lucky. We're very blessed to be at that perfect intersection of something we actually fundamentally care about, emotionally care about, and like living in with our work.
If you look back 10 years ago when you co-founded Twitch, what one lesson you learned that you can share with entrepreneurs? Either funding, growing ideas, growing company.
I mean, I know a lot about funding these days and fundraising, and I actually give a lot of entrepreneurs advice on how to do that. But I'd say the most important thing, there's all these different parts that go into being an entrepreneur, right? It's not easy. It's not as easy as just having an idea by any means. As they say, and I think Paul Graham or YC always says this. They say, the idea is just 1%, right? 99% actually the entrepreneur work. Focus. We learned to focus. Before Twitch, when we were running Justin TV, it was a platform for anybody. So we had people that would stream farms, like they just had a camera on their chicken coop. We had people walking around LA just doing stuff, random stuff, talking to people on the street. We had a fashion show. Justin was the original show, right? So he would walk around San Francisco and just talk to people. But we didn't know where to take it. You know, we did stuff with Hollywood Records. We actually had a bunch of their artists that would stream just talking about what they were doing, talking about their new albums that were coming out. And that was fun, but it wasn't consistent, right? The content wasn't something you could tune in and expect to see every day. And that's when we started looking inward and say, okay, really our platform is this evergreen 24/7 platform. How do we get people to really tune in, and eventually figured out games? But focus, when we found that gaming was the thing we cared about, and the platform that we had fortunately fit very well with the thing that we cared about. We obviously did some research and found that, hey, actually there is not only is this a cultural habit that people watch each other play games, there is actually already things happening in digital media that indicate that watching gaming live is something people want to do. But when we decided to focus on just games alone, it's like the world completely changed for us. All of a sudden, we knew exactly what to build. I mean, we knew more about what to build, and we became more disciplined about how to get feedback from customers and how to distill that into product. But that focal point of games helped us probably more than anything in those early years of the company. So find that focus. World is full of distractions. I mean, even as we were going through gaming, we'd think about, what about news? What about sports? What about all this other stuff? And we said, you know what, for now, let's focus until we grow, until we feel like we'd hit a comfortable growth pattern, and then we can start thinking about branching out into other verticals if that's what we decide we want to do. But it was really that focal point, and that is very specific in terms of how we did it. But in general, a lot of entrepreneurs face this all the time. They face whether they need to extend into different business models all the way to completely different things. This is what they famously call the pivot, right? I actually don't like that word. I think it's natural for companies to evolve. So these small evolutions that happen. But it's about picking those right evolutions and making sure that it makes sense with your focus. But I think that's the number one thing that I find especially a lot of younger entrepreneurs, they tend to see all these opportunities in market. I mean, that's why you're an entrepreneur in the first place. You can, at a macro level, see the gap, right? You identify a problem that either affects you or people around you, and you find out how big this problem is, and then you try to solve it. But along the way, there's all the other problems that present themselves. So how do you figure out which problems are relevant to you now versus maybe later, or completely irrelevant to you, while maintaining that focus of your core mission?
It seems like you identify the trends as well. And I wanted to ask you about emotional intelligence, because I've seen you several times. You're always happy, you're approachable. And you have not changed. You're ultra successful. Let's be honest. You don't find that often in business world today. If you can talk about the importance, being yourself, and which also Bruce Lee taught, being yourself.
Yeah. No. I thank you, first of all. I don't know. It's what my parents taught me, right? Treat people the way you want to be treated, basically, is what they've always told me. And my parents would always yell at each other for being overly generous. Like, they'd give friends money that needed it. I don't know where that comes from, really, but I think it came a lot from my upbringing. In terms of changing now, honestly, you have to actually I'm more conscious about it now than I ever was in my life. And it's because things happen when you sell your company, as an example. These big life-changing events don't go unnoticed, and things happen, and people treat you differently, and you have to go about life a little bit more cautiously, honestly. And then that's not great, but it's okay. I mean, it's part of life. It's part of how things change. But I actually used to be really shy. when I was growing up, I was incredibly shy. I never wanted to go to parties. Like, I never wanted to do anything really.
Do you have a video clip or a photo of that?
I'm sure I do. I mean, as a kid, I was really.
I saw in the hall in the office.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. When I was very young, I would always wave at people and smile at people. My dad would say they'd bring me to a restaurant, and before they knew it, I'd be sitting in someone else's booth talking with people, and they'd be feeding me. So as a kid, I guess I was not shy. But once I hit middle school and early high school, I was quite shy, and I think that might have been part of growing up in New Orleans. It's not a very, back then it was not a very diverse city for folks like me, for Asian kids. Funny enough, I mean, it was 65% African American, basically 35% Caucasian. It was like less than 1% Asian, and I was in a school. My first high school was an all boys Catholic school, and 1,400 students. There was like 4 Asian kids, and what I didn't realize, frankly, was hate and racism. I just thought people were just bullies. I'd go home and I'd be like, Mom, everyone hates me because my hair is black. I didn't even realize I was Asian. Really. I thought people were just you just get used to it because people like picking on each other. And that was not, it wasn't it wasn't a sad story. I didn't go home, it didn't like destroy my life. I wasn't depressed, but I was always like, why aren't people nicer to each other? Right? Why do they care about the way I look? And that, I guess, I'll be honest, I'm not super conscious of that these days. I was very active in Asian American societies in college when I found Asians that I could hang out with and learn from them and understand that their struggle growing up in America was very similar to my struggle growing up in America, and you can empathize. And that changed my outlook on it. And nowadays I'm trying to give back, trying to figure out, what can we do to further Asians in America, Asians in entertainment, Asians in tech, entrepreneurship, and all around industries, whether it's career or just personal advice. That's very meaningful to me, and I had mentors along the way, and I'm grateful for them. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have those mentors. But you can't let it change you, right? We didn't start the company with the goal of selling it, really. I mean, we did it with the goal of building a big business and having fun along the way, but we never really thought about selling it. Was it a thought along the way as we raised money? Yeah, sure, of course, venture capitalists want a return. You either IPO or you sell, or you become profitable, pay dividends. There's many different outcomes, but it wasn't something we were obsessed with. It wasn't like we wake up every day and say, how am I going to get this company to the point where I'm going to make money for myself? It was about, what are we doing here, right? What impact are we having on the world, and how do we build a business around that impact? So it's just about how you approach life. It's not, I don't know if there's right or wrongs, really. It's just, for me, I feel fortunate. I feel like a lot of people help me along the way, and I try to treat people the same way I want to be treated. It's quite simple, I think. I guess, yeah, I know a lot of people don't do that, but I hope that more people will.
That's great. Any final words for the Global Lead audience?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for all you entrepreneurs out there, do it. If you got an idea and you feel like you have a good team around you, take the plunge. You might lose a couple of years of what you might be doing elsewhere, working somewhere, but you learn so much about yourself. Entrepreneurship is as much about the idea and building the business as it is about failing and understanding yourself more. I learned more in the first couple of years where we barely survived. I mean, we started the company and then all of a sudden the recession hits and we're like, oh, well, there we go. I guess we're going to go find real jobs. But we persevered and we made it through. And if I can do it as a random kid that grew up in New Orleans that barely went to class and, didn't really have I had no true aspirations growing up. Even in college, I didn't know what I was going to do. I somehow found something to do. So if you're interested, find a mentor, find a support network around you, give it a go.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.